This is an excerpt of God's Helix by Bradley Lewis, narrated by the author. God's Helix is available on Amazon.com in print, Kindle and Nook as an ebook, and Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com as an audiobook. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. Psalm 139. It was another idyllic sunny day in Haiti. The weather sometimes presented a stark contrast to the turmoil that engulfed the country, but not its population's somewhat optimistic mindset. The devastating 2010 earthquake, followed by the return of the former tyrannical leader Baby Doc Duvalier, did nothing to dampen the robust Haitian spirit. Jean Warner DDS had just arrived back in Haiti after a bizarre trip to Las Vegas, his first journey to the United States. The only thing he was looking forward to was seeing his wife and daughter, particularly after his bizarre ordeal in Las Vegas, a very strange case of mistaken identity which resulted in a peculiar police detention. Despite his strange experience in Vegas, he had serious thoughts about relocating to Miami, something many Haitians, including his twin brother Devon, had done over the last 20 years. The recovery effort in Haiti was still a mess. Cholera had become part of daily life, perhaps brought in by Nepalese troops. Jean was also worried about his daughter's education. Still, Miami was just a dream for now. Jean felt an overwhelming obligation to his people and could not pull up stakes at a time like this. He would remain a devoted Haitian dentist despite the unstable political and health situations. How could he leave his people after such devastation? Now more than ever, they needed health care. The number of healthcare providers had dwindled, and Jean knew the people needed him. Not just his regular coterie of patients, but now almost everyone. He had made up his mind to stay and told himself that he would volunteer at the 10 cities, performing free dental work as well as anything asked of him, from vaccinations to assisting in general surgery. While Jean roamed the streets of Port-au-Prince, not knowing what to do next, his mind wandered to thoughts of the earthquake damage. Jean wasn't a rich man, certainly not by Haitian standards, but he was well off. His debts for school had been taken care of, and he owned his modest home and little office building. His home was sturdier than his office, and he reassured himself that the construction of both was far superior to most of the structures in Haiti. His mind raced with thoughts of his weird Las Vegas encounter, but as soon as he saw the turmoil around town, his mind fixed on the larger problems of Haiti. Even with the ouster of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, the little backward nation had developed no central authority. With Baby Doc back in town, there was talk of bringing back Aristide, the lesser of two evils, so that his party could reform and take part in the new government. Nations around the world cried foul after the latest round of rigged elections. But this was old news for Haiti, a country whose foundations was based on a myriad of competing corrupt groups. Merlande Manajat, a law professor and former First Lady, had been acknowledged as garnering the most votes in the election. Yet, a runoff election was required due to technical majority rules. But nobody was certain as to whom she would run against. Pop star Michel Martelly would enter the political fracas and would eventually emerge with an uncontested landslide victory. The business of voting had been conducted during the horrific cholera epidemic exacerbated by poor sanitary conditions after the devastating earthquake. The seaside shanty towns like Cite-Soleil were saturated with stories about victims of armed gangs. The lower you ate on the food chain, the more obvious the corruption. The merciless in-your-face brutality included murder, a consistent harsh reality of daily life. The more macabre hostilities included beheadings. Local police were said to be involved in the corruption and regularly utilized various torture techniques. The police rarely investigated crimes committed by armed predators. Sometimes the police left a collection of heads inside a burlap sack for the pigs to consume amongst the garbage. Anarchy ruled. Rumbles over turf control were commonplace. The locals regularly breathed in a fetid stench left from the atrocities, even when holed up inside their shanties made from charred bits of tin. Nobody in Cite Soleil had a bathroom. Without a sewage system, the locals relied on primitive outhouses. Utilities were unheard of in this neighborhood. Drinking water was purchased from street vendors. Citizens illegally tied into existing power lines for electric power. As a responsible health professional, Jean stopped to give aid or advice whenever possible. Still, he had his own personal quest to deal with. He had not heard from his wife and daughter for several days. This has been an excerpt of God's Helix, available on Amazon.com, Nook, Kindle, Audible, iTunes.